made it. The season has come to a close and a champ has been crowned. Welcome to the latest episode of the Hoops Boys podcast, the final regular season episode of this 2022-2023 season. Your host with the most, James the Jet, and I am America's favorite bitch-ass white boy, CProc. Gonna bring in our guest analysts, as always, Greggers and The Shaddillac, to break down this finals appearance. Jet, what kind of dominant display did we see in these finals and throughout the playoffs?
The Joker went crazy this whole playoffs, averaging 30 points, 13.5 rebounds, and 9.5 assists, almost averaging a triple-double, and a feat that he achieved playing against the Phoenix Suns and Lakers. This is one of the most dominant performances I've seen. Not the most dominant, but one of the most dominant performances I've seen by a single player. I want to go to our panel and see how do we feel about Joker and his performance in the playoffs this year. Shad, let's start with you.
I thought he did very well. He did better than I expected him to do. I thought he would have one or two games where he'd be, maybe okay. It'd be like a C game, maybe like 15 points, 8 boards, and 8 assists or something. But he didn't have an off game. I don't think he scored less than 20 points the entire time, and he's always been close to a triple-double. Even like if you look at the box score, I don't think it does him justice of how well he played in the series. This is definitely like the most dominating finals performance I could think of since LeBron won with the Cavs, I would say. He's definitely put himself as a toss-up as the best player in the league between him and Giannis, in my opinion. He's definitely in that three-way tie of the best European player ever now with Giannis and Dirk. And he's only about, maybe halfway through his career. So that's a scary thing. Can he win multiple titles? If the Nuggets, keep the same, core talent around him, I think they could start like a mini dynasty, roll off 2 or 3, championships, in a matter of years. I just hope, he's able to stay healthy, for a guy who's not a quote unquote workout warrior. Doesn't seem to have like a Kobe mentality as far as effort off season, always obsessed with it. He seems to be like a very, keep to himself kind of guy. I just hope he, when he gets to like that, in the 30s, he continues to keep on the same trajectory, because he's got a bright future where he can end up, never being like a top 10, player of all time.
Agreed. Greg, how do we feel about the Joker?
Absolutely amazing performance. No other way to put it. I can't recall in recent memory someone controlling the playoffs, the postseason, the season like Joker did. Pure stats alone, anyone who wanted to be a detractor, he's the first player in the history of the league to lead the entire postseason in total points, rebounds, and assists, which is insane to me to consider, all the years, all the great players, all the amazing finals performances. And he's literally the first person to ever do that. I mean, they went 16-4 in the postseason. It seemed like he knew when to push every button when they needed his scoring, when they needed him to facilitate. He literally is a throwback in so many ways. And he's put himself into the upper echelon of, quite frankly, I mean, he's climbing the ladder of the all-time greats. I was talking to someone today about this and said, if Joker retired today, he'd probably still be in the Hall of Fame after this. 2 MVPs, an all-time finals performance. Just honestly, like he's doing things the league hasn't seen. Because he's such an unselfish superstar, I think he's providing a framework to other teams. When we get into how other teams want to structure themselves, the people, the players that jump teams, that Joker and Denver have just basically done it the right way. Him and Jamal have been Batman and Robin, but seriously, I think Jokic, the best thing about him is he just his unselfishness. He just wants to win. His post game press conferences seem boring, and that's honestly what I really think the way he is. He just wants to win the game. He's old school like that. But a completely amazing performance. And as of right now, I mean, I have to put him as the best player in the league as of right now. Those things can change, of course. There's other greats in the league, but what he did is second to none and absolutely astounding.
Last but not least, partner.
This was off of a season that he was 0.2 percentage points short of just averaging triple double for the whole season. That's from a big man. I mean, Rusty's obviously made a small career in of itself, averaging triple doubles in recent years, but he's a guard and an aggressive guard. A big man doing it and averaging that many assists and almost getting a triple double, that would have been a feat in itself. So then just to continue that momentum into the postseason, as Shad said, not ever taking his foot off the gas, that it's like the man's got a motor that doesn't quit for someone his size is pretty impressive. Is it kind of like maybe a turning point back to the NBA of old? Now, maybe is the big man coming back now? Because you have Giannis and Jokic, who are just two incredibly dominant players, and they're both big men with traditional big men skill sets.
My opinion is, I think, I don't want to say necessarily back to the big man, but the style of play. I mean, they've proven this year, how that unselfish style of basketball works. I mean, Jokic is always he's probably more dominant when he's not scoring the basketball. Like we've talked about, when you game plan against him, if you double team him, he kicks for open threes, layup cutters. I think that as much as anything, the basically the dribble drive. I mean, I think if you're a coach, you have to kind of look, and I think that's what he's done. He's made you kind of reevaluate offensive basketball. How could you not watch Denver this series? And again, let's not misconstrue. He has Jamal Murray. He has Michael Porter. He has players with him, no doubt. But that was a pretty brand of basketball. I mean, they found the open guy constantly. And I think for me, the emphasis on that more so than the one-on-one, take the Celtics, who kind of fell into that. If Tatum didn't shoot well or Brown, I think it's kind of a framework of, there's certain principles of basketball. That's the throwback to me. Like, unselfish basketball works. Doesn't matter what position, doesn't matter what size, whatever. I think for me, that's what I leave with.
Shad, you brought up a potential mini dynasty. What 1-2 punch can you compare closest to Murray and Jokic?
All time or right now?
All time. Championship pedigree.
I can't definitely go with a Shaq or Kobe or Scotty and Michael type of thing. I think they're just something of their own. I don't think they'll be remembered, in those top echelon of 1-2 punches. But I think they can make their own niche where you'll think of them, after you rattle off those top names. Maybe something in that Stockton Malone category. I don't know, but probably a little bit better. I know they didn't get a ring, but they were, a dominant duo for close to 20 years almost. So I think, as long as they don't get 4, 5, 6 rings, I think they'll kind of be in that kind of a 1-2 punch right there. That Stockton Malone, maybe I know they weren't a big, kind of duo, but something like Isaiah and Joe Dumars type of, duo, maybe even Mikal Bird. I mean, they have 3 rings together, so maybe somewhere in that realm. But definitely, I don't think they're going to be anything like Shaq or Kobe or MJ, Pippen.
No, they also have time. I mean, right, Chad? I mean, I not that I'm disagreeing with you, but they have time, and we don't know how that plays out over, a period of time. They have time. I mean, Jamal Murray, right? He's still coming off that knee injury, and this was his first full. So I think it was awesome. Whether it's 1 year, 2 years, or 10, it was a great performance. Well, one question, you guys, I thought about this because we're talking to. I was someone's asked me who do you try and compare Jokic to, he's so unique that the comparison I thought of, if I could combine two guys, it's like Magic Johnson and Larry Bird together. That's who I thought of, like what his style of play, right? His passing ability, like Magic. He's not like neither one of those guys. I mean, obviously we know how amazing they were. Neither one of Magic or Bird was like the greatest athlete you've ever seen, right? They were just so skilled, so amazing, with the ball, every facet of play. So anyway, back to that quickly. That was my analogy. I used Magic and Bird together, and that was Jokic. That's who I came up with.
I have
Okay.
I have one partner. What you got?
Dang. I was gonna say a mixture of Hakeem Olajuwon and Steve Nash.
Interesting.
Can't pick one.
Yeah.
Chad, let's see if you can steal my pick.
To me, it's a current day player. I think he's like a 6-inch taller version of Luka Doncic.
A big plodding Luka.
Right. Kind of like not very athletic, but they can handle the ball. They can dominate the game. Very good shooters, very good passers, underrated on the glass, and they could, stat sheet stuffers. And they're pretty much they are pretty much their whole team. So I think, Jokic and Luka are kind of like mirror images of each other, except, Luka is probably like 6 inches shorter than, Jokic is, and without the MVP and the championship yet.
I'm gonna throw out Timmy. Because you think guys that have this well-rounded, multifaceted game, super square in their fundamentals, but they're athletic, but they're not thought of for their athleticism. They come in, they do their job to an absolutely elite level, to the point where they're almost unstoppable. When they don't want to be stopped, you're not going to stop them. But like, they're not this super like flashy, high flying type of player. They're just extremely solid in all facets. And when they want to be great in any facet, they can take it to that level.
That's a good one.
Another good one, and I'm gonna start with Greg, because I know Shad's just gonna make me eat my words from 10 years ago. Once I start with this, he's gonna know where I'm going. So Erik Spoelstra has been to a lot of finals now in his career. And he does have the 2 rings, but he's also lost a lot now. Where does Spo's legacy rank amongst all-time coaches?
For me, the losses, and if you take the last 2 in particular, this year to Denver and the bubble, the Lakers, it not one iota of detraction from him. It's clear as day to everyone. Is there anybody out there who's an NBA fan who would say the Heat were better than the Nuggets, or back in the bubble were the Heat better than the Lakers with LeBron and AD when they're both healthy? No chance. The fact that Spoelstra got this team that far, they took out the Bucks, they took out the Bulls. I mean, they lost the first playing game. They were 1 game away from not even making the main playoff round. So I think in Miami's case, it's amazing what he did. They still were shorthanded. Tyler Hero, we said before the playoffs, I still believe it, was almost as big a loss as anybody because they needed offense. And he still restructured that team, changed the way they played. Duncan Robinson, all of a sudden, on a serious note, was a forgotten soul. He hit big shots all throughout the playoffs. So for me, Spoelstra goes up notches. There's no if they would have beaten Denver, just for my 2 cents worth, talent-wise, that would have been borderline a miracle. And I really think that Spoelstra did an awesome job to have them. And even Game 5, they're desperate, but they were an inch away from making that series go 6. where I don't think Denver was ever going to be in trouble. But there's not one bit of negative talk for Spoelstra, and I think his legacy is not tarnished one bit. Again, that facing much superior teams, got the 8th seed to the finals. The list goes on and on. Undrafted players up and down the court, missing guys. Amazing job. No two ways about it. Nothing bad to say.
Chad, what you got on the legacy of Spo, especially compared to other all-time great coaches?
I don't know. I think he's still behind Scotty Brooks.
Oh, I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing, you jerk. I know what you're doing.
Oh man, no, I think he's definitely a top 10 all time. He, for a guy of him, where people thought he would be fired, pretty much his first year in with the Heatles, and Pat Riley's going to take over as coach. He's done an excellent job. He's been to 6 finals, even though he's only won 2 of them. For a guy, like I said, if you would have said, 12 years ago, I'm not trying to bang on Chase, but, I think most people would have said, what Chase said. Like, this is going to be an average at best coach. He probably can't match up with anybody. He's too young, very green. And, now the guy's taking, average teams to, a bunch of Eastern Conference finals and 6 finals. And he was a shot away from going to back-to-back finals, appearances. So I think, I don't think you could put him up there with the Phil Jackson, Greg Popovich, that kind of class. But I think he's, maybe a step or 2 below. He's definitely in that top 10, in my opinion. And I think he's better than some of the quote unquote legends, like, Casey Jones, I believe, for the Celtics, who only won 1 title, but they put him in this upper echelon. I think he's might be better than Pat Riley, to tell you the truth, just because he's done more with less talent. I certainly think he's better than Doc Rivers, who was named the top 25 coach of all time or whatever.
We knew that one was coming.
I knew it was coming, but I didn't know whether he was going to say Doc or Greg Popovich.
No, I think Greg Popovich has earned it. What does he have? 5 rings, and he's been to a few more finals. So I think he's earned it to be in that top tier. I think as of today, he's a better coach. Erik Spoelstra is a better coach, but I think all time it's definitely Greg Popovich. To me, it's kind of if I know I'm not comparing apples to apples and it's different sports, but I kind of feel like it's Andy Reid and Bill Belichick. I think right now, if you said hands down who's a better coach right now, I think most people would say Andy Reid just because of what he's done lately. But all time, you definitely have to go with Bill Belichick just because, what he's done over the years, the past, 20, 25 years. So better resume. So, I mean, that's my kind of comparison with that right there, Erik Spoelstra and, kind of like a Greg Popovich.
One last thing, too, about Spoelstra. I wanted to double check because I thought the Heat, it's amazing. The lowest scoring team in the entire NBA this year. And they almost won the finals. That's crazy. The lowest scoring team in the league. And listen, yes, they're predicated on defense, but they're not throwing out the Tarkanian amoeba D either. It's the NBA, right?
Yeah.
To be the lowest scoring team in the entire league and make that run, just incredible. I was astonished at how far they got. Great job. Bet
the under.
Yeah.
I think in my defense, for all those many moons ago, a lot of people got distracted by the shiny new toy in Oklahoma City, all that talent together, and then they just broke apart before they really started to do anything. So I think there was a little bit of distraction way back then with the brand new car, and kind of distracted away from Spoelstra's eventual longevity.
Where's Scotty Brooks now?
Probably drawing up playground sand plays. James the Jet, what you got on Spo?
Spo got to go down as one of the greatest coaches definitely in that top 10 range. He has the ability to do more with less, and I think this playoff run definitely showed that. If he had like the talent that some of these other teams have, you know, you can only imagine what he could do. Hats off to Spo and the Heat.
Yeah, especially with like having to swap the pieces out all the time. Like every other series, there's one piece missing.
Right.
But and back again, serious, obviously Miami was on this run, and could anyone really look at those two teams and say Miami should have won that final? No, no way, right? And that's the point. Like he had them competitive. He got them to the final. Like the talent was way overmatched in Denver's favor. Home court, the whole 9 yards.
And it seemed like every series, like they were up against a giant in some way, somehow.
Yep.
They beat every team.
Well, I think he got them. When you talk about getting the absolute most, that's what he did. The absolute ceiling that team could have reached, he did it.
Yeah.
That's plain and simple. He got their ceiling, and most coaches, most teams never reach that.
Let's have a little fun and kick around a silly topic for a couple of minutes. The city of Denver. Obviously, there's always when one city tends to stack up a lot of championships, they start to get Titletown comparison. The last one to really do it was Boston. Well, Boston did it to extreme heights. Los Angeles had a little bit of a run in the mid 2010s, stacking up some titles. But Denver now, you have that the Nuggets finally win a title now. The Avalanche, who had, when the NHL came back to Denver, they got off fairly start, unless I think I have my dates right. They came back and got a couple cups, and then they just won another one recently. And then Denver, that took them a while to finally win the Super Bowl, but then they won a couple, and then they got another one with the sheriff in town. If the Rockies could ever get off their rear end and get to and win a World Series, then Denver really might have a stake to the claim. But what's Denver's status right now as a potential Titletown contender? Chad, what you got?
I mean, you can't forget about the lacrosse team. Didn't lacrosse team win?
Oh, did they?
I believe so. I believe they won
I think something like that.
Yeah, so don't forget about lacrosse, even though I can't name the team, but I know it's Denver or Colorado something.
That's right. You the Mr. collegiate lacrosse athlete.
Yeah, right.
Colorado Crush.
Sounds good, or probably a beer name either way. So sounds
okay.
Good.
No, I think if you had to pick
football team.
No, I think if you had to pick a town, city right now, as Titletown, I think you would probably have to go with Denver. And definitely if you went with a sports owner right now, you have to go with Stan Kroenke, because pretty much all his teams that he owns has won in the past calendar year or so. So well, maybe 2 calendar years, somewhere around there. So I definitely gotta give my props to Stan Kroenke. Everybody said he was a terrible owner, years ago, especially when the Rams were in St. Louis. But now look at him. But yeah, it's very impressive. Especially, it seems like a lot of these teams kind of came out of nowhere. Like, if you would have asked me, I never would have. Getting this playoffs, I didn't think Denver was going to do it. I thought they were kind of just a regular season team. I knew Jokic was good, but I just didn't think they had the firepower to kind of beat the Western Conference. Which had, like, I would say at least 4 or 5 serious contenders. As far as football, the Broncos suck right now, which makes me kind of happy, but they had their run. with Peyton Manning going to a couple Super Bowls and winning one. The Rockies, they're kind of like my second baseball team. They need to step it up, even though they did go to, World Series years ago, against my Red Sox. Lacrosse, I know nothing about them, but, good for them. But yes, I think Denver is that, that town right now. Denver has lifeblood with the Nuggets, and I think, it's going to bring kind of that passion out. I never thought at Denver as a great sports city, just because I feel like I never met too many fans of Denver other than the Broncos fans. But I think this is going to be possibly like the new Golden State, where you see people rise up and all of a sudden like they're Denver Nuggets fans now.
Oh, we know that's quite the ire for you. The one city I did forget was Tampa. They have a couple cups. They got that Super Bowl, and the Rays were just on the cusp of getting a World Series as well. Greg used to live out there. What's Denver's stake to Titletown?
Well, I think there was a purposeful intent to get me angry. So why don't I get that out now? So I've rooted for the Rockies as well. Obviously, I'm a Yankee fan, but I do root for the Rockies. I'm convinced for years that that year you were alluding to, they got swept by the Red Sox. We'll start with that to start my anger. Number two, I feel like since I'm convinced that Isaiah Thomas has been running the Rockies, so just to sidebar to baseball for a bit, they have made quite possibly the worst moves.
We're just tweaking all your wires.
Yeah, pretty much. So let me get that out.
They can have Story back. Take them back.
Yeah, they've done quite a job to ruin a great core they once had. But as I digress, I think the Nuggets are kind of basically what represent Denver right now. They're the up and coming, I would say Denver in the hierarchy of sports cities. I think Denver's has been burgeoning for a while. A lot of people from Denver as of 30 years ago were all transplanted. Now you have a lot of people that are naturally from Denver, naturally from Colorado. So they've been looking to get on the map. And I think the Avalanche, you're right, the Avalanche have been incredible for a few years. But I think the Nuggets are kind of, that next step. Do the Nuggets go further and win a couple more, which I think there's obviously a good shot to. So I think they definitely are staking their claim. And they'd also, not only getting on lacrosse, the Denver University hockey team is quite a stalwart over the years too. So they on a serious note, the college sports are huge out there. The hockey is. So they're kind of staking their claim. What's the college cup that Stanford always wins? I forget the name of. It's not the President's Cup, but like the most titles in college, of all the sports. Denver's basically trying to get their into that in pro sports. So yeah, up and coming, and I think the Nuggets are symbolic of that. A team that's on the rise and better days ahead. More good days ahead, I should say.
Yeah, they just had a pretty good one.
Rockies, though, that we got some issues here. Yeah, and a beautiful ballpark and one of the nicest places to watch a park. And you'll even sit there when they're down 10-2, which is often the case. But again, as I digress, go Rockies.
You got a pick for Titletown?
Maybe Vegas.
I was gonna say Vegas is now. I don't think anyone can trust the Raiders or potentially the A's after this move. After this a move that seems to be coming up with steam. But if any city can start racking up championships, Vegas is gonna be one fun city to be a fan in there.
Right. Yeah, I think Vegas would be my pick. Especially like you said, they're working on bringing a lot of teams there. It's big money out there. All the betting, you know what I mean? So
a Stanley Cup will get you off to a nice start, and Greg's favorite, the WNBA championship, adds to it as well.
Oh, yeah. I'll plead the fifth on that one.
Well, gang, thanks for hanging out with us. This has been the Hoops Boys Pod. Please keep it locked with us. On the next show, we'll be doing a draft preview, so you don't want to miss that. But until then, hit us up on our socials at Hoops Boys Pod on both Instagram and Twitter. And let us know how you feel about Joker and his big performance. Until next time, it's Hoops Boys Pod.
Oh.